And when we created that water closet, we made that little room into a pooping room. And since it was a little water closet, we decided to put a door there. So then pooping became very secretive.
One of the most important ways to eliminate waste and toxins, which we're kind of seem to be overburdened by these days, is pooping, having a healthy bowel movement. And a lot of people have issues with it. So everything that Susan's doing to help people understand, how to improve their bowel movements on the regular. And I loved watching, one of her TikToks, which was about, hemorrhoids and, let's try and avoid surgery because, it's not that simple. It's like you're walking around with, an open wound for a while and they might grow back. So it's not that simple. You got to correct the root cause, which I loved. So
yes. Well, but isn't this typical of our society? We want the quick fixes, and typically quick fixes are not a quick fix. They don't deal with the solutions or the root cause. So, and you're addressing that so well. And so I would love to, we would need to actually have you speak because you're just sitting there silently nodding your head. And so for those of you that are watching the YouTube version, this is her book, The Power of Pooping. We all need to watch or read this. Like, it's awesome. It's on your website. So we're going to put it in our show notes to how to connect with you. Like, you're a freaking genius, I just have to say, because nobody talks about poop and you're normalizing it, making it fun, and you're educating. And I love how you even mentioned about how it all started out. Like, why are we shaming ourselves about pooping? So can you start from the beginning and like, why pooping? Like, why is this your shtick?
It just kind of fell into the role of, I've been a nurse for, like you said, for 40 years. And during nursing school, I did actually have so much stress that I started experiencing college, especially nursing school, especially constipation and finals and taking loads of units to just graduate because you're on a track. And I recognized, luckily I was living with my boyfriend at the time, and he somehow had more time than I, and he would help me by cooking up dinner. And it was just so helpful to have someone help you cook some nutritious food. And so I remember using my first enema during my time when I was studying for finals. I was a bad girl. I actually would go to the bakery and buy myself a mocha chocolate cake. And that was my food for the week of finals. And I just became so severely constipated. Of course. And I said, oh my God, Michael was a pharmacy major. And I said, Michael, what do I do? And he goes, get yourself an enema. Oh, and I'm looking at the package, and I'm going, oh yeah, okay, I'll do that. And boy, did that help me. And I said, I'm never going to do that again. I'm going to deal with my stress differently. I got to get my shit together, and I'm never
literally, no pun intended.
Yeah. And so that brings us into stress. And stress, again, like you asked me before this talk about presenting how to prevent constipation or manage constipation before, during your pregnancy, correct? Right, Mary?
Yeah. Well, I mean, because it's part of life in general. Like, listen, okay, I'm going to cut in with my own little side story. When I was a kid, I thought pooping was gross. So I would literally hold my poop and I wouldn't go for a week, right? So I created constipation because of my mind, right?
Yes.
But obviously, as an adult, it's like, oh my gosh. So I've been obsessed with pooping myself my whole life, because then it was like, oh my gosh, that's wrong. And I need to be pooping every day.
Yeah.
It's very common. It's very common. It can cause like urinary incontinence in children too. Like, it's a very common thing where kids feel like they need to control, or they're afraid to poop in public. And I was going to say, I would imagine that week when you were having the chocolate cake that you probably had a real appreciation for your mom's oatmeal. Yeah. So mom was a constipated woman and never allowed us to eat anything but
oatmeal with raisin that I had to cook. And of course, I always forget and I would burn it. And then my brother would look at it and go, "Oh, you expect me to eat that?" And I'm scraping it at the bottom. I'm going, "Yeah, eat what you can, okay? And shut up." So, it was no time to cook because my mom would take us to school and she had to go on to work. So there's all those things that come into our lives of stress, time, meal preparation, how to make things to help ourselves to maintain a steady diet that's nutritious and balanced. And so that's kind of where I saw a lot of my patients in my practice that talk about, oh, what do I do when I travel? What do I do when I'm working, overseas, traveling, working, managing kids? I've had children now. I'm here. I'm constipated as hell. Or I'm about to have a baby and I feel like I can't do anything. And I'm saying, well, lady, I can't really manipulate your pelvic muscles down there, but I could guide you through some gentle self-care to manage to relax those muscles. But at this time, we can't manipulate and work out that tension, I don't want to have a baby on my table, right?
Right, yeah, of course.
And so it's very challenging. And I saw a lot of post-op patients from cancer surgery, colectomies, J pouches, which means surgical removal of the colon due to ulcerative colitis, and hemorrhoids and fissures, and just straight up muscle tension, or they may have had vaginal surgery, like a lift of the bladder, but now we're having prolapse, or they may have needed a lift of the bladder, and they're having. When you put them over the toilet, you realize, oh my God, their bladder's falling out, the rectocoel's looking at me, and the rectum is looking at me too. And you're going, this is a team effort. We got to get these people help to get a urogyne and a colorectal surgeons to fully evaluate what part they can help. But when we come back to pregnancy, we see these things of, they're already starting their pregnancy or they're about to start, and they have hemorrhoid issues and they have defecation issues. So you have to guide them through, get the basic, get your life together, get your diet together where it works for you. And I talk about in the book, and just like you mentioned in your previous interview, the guys have to take care of themselves, because we have to take care of ourselves to guide through this passage, because as you're going through your pregnancy, you may have morning sickness, you can't keep down food, the sight of food just wants to, blow you away, you just can't stand it, or you can't keep anything in your stomach. And it goes on, and then you kind of go, well, now I'm having problems with my gut with pooping. How do I manage that? And we have to be as creative and listen to what our patients are telling us and try to work and tailor a treatment plan to help them make it through. And so then you may see the patient again the later in life after they've delivered. Now we're still having problems, the pelvic floor issues, and we're nursing, or we've developed major butt problems like hemorrhoids, just are engorged like crazy. And again, you have to work with that. So some of the key points is diet I talked about, hydration, and stress management. And then in a lot of my TikToks, I talk about managing techniques of pooping. How do we poop? Positioning.
butttalkstv, you'll find her. And yeah, you do some creative education and fun, and which I think it demystifies pooping, and because we do it behind closed doors. And if I'm going to add in gender in there, and as growing up as a female, I think we're kind of told maybe you shouldn't be even known that you poop, or flatulate, fart. Girls don't fart, do they? They don't have gas, do they? Right?
They do.
But we all do. And I heard your interview with, oh my gosh,
Jillian
Michaels. And she was making a joke about that, about her fiance, who is now her wife, says, oh no, she doesn't poop. And she even called her and says, oh honey, you don't poop or flatulate, do you? Right? Like it's like we're perpetuating that persona. And I think we need to alter that.
Exactly. And God knows if that's from our development of the toilet. And when we created that water closet, we made that little room into a pooping room. And since it was a little water closet, we decided to put a door there. So then pooping became very secretive. And it also maybe, arrived from the puritanical type of viewpoint of the English making that toilet and being very Victorian about it. No, we don't talk about poop. Ladies don't poop, and ladies are meant to be heard, and all that stuff. Or, it's sort of like historically, we don't know where the development of all this taboo about pooping comes from. So, yes. So I'm here to kind of like laugh at ourselves, tell ourselves it's okay to poop, it's okay to fart, and pooping pain and pooping issues is common with everybody. And I love that children's book written by the Japanese author, That Everyone Poops. I read that to my son as a young age. Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to put that in our show notes for sure, okay?
Yeah,
Everyone
absolutely.
Poops. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I love
that was made in the 70s, I believe, that book.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I had never heard of it.
Oh,
Have
yeah.
you
It's a kids.
No, I have not.
Oh my God, really?
But speaking of books, I had to read from my head, like just go through a book every time Griffin would go to the bathroom. Probably too much information, but poor kid. He would have a hard time in public. So I'd be like, Tiger, is it true? And I would just make up stories to just relax him. So, I mean, what's your top tips for helping people, let's say, because that's a big one, like turtling poop in public, like turtling meaning it's there and it's turtling, but it's just not coming out because you're nervous and shy. That's what I call it, turtling poop. So what's your biggest tip for that? Would you say, Susan?
If it's kind of like sitting at the door, sometime retracting the anal muscle a little bit and then relaxing, it's kind of, you could be sitting and doing that over the toilet. You could tilt back. Even if because a lot of people are very attached to their squatty bench at home, but if you're in a public toilet, you can't always do that.
You can't bring your squatty bench to the toilet.
No.
Stand on the toilet and squat.
Yeah, right.
You have to be careful not to jump in.
To bring that up, I was testing a patient, and the patient was from China. She did stand up on the toilet seat and squatted.
Okay.
And it helped her.
It works?
Well, she came in with pooping problems. So if that was her general technique, it wasn't helping her on all levels.
All right. So we diverted. So your top tips
so leaning back, if you're in the toilet, leaning back, so rocking back and forth and still blowing side to side, which I talked about recently, rolling around the toilet seat.
What do you mean rolling around the toilet seat? What does that mean? Like a dance?
Okay,
got it. While you're sitting there on the toilet. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like actually doing this for those guys who can't watch.
And keep blowing. And sometimes I tell people to put their toes up, tippy toe, and just kind of keep relaxing. And so those are some of the ways. And then sometimes standing up and sitting back down. And then hopefully that automated toilet flusher doesn't interrupt you, which I gave some TikTok tips about putting a cover of toilet paper over.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and then we have the newer version where the toilet flusher sensor is against the wall. Yes. And so you have to put, like I said, lick some toilet paper and wet it and stick it over that.
Front.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's brilliant.
It's like everything to block that sensor,
Because the last thing you want is a big splash up on your butt when you're trying to relax.
Yeah. And the sound,
Exactly. And the other problem is sometimes these bathroom stall doors have such a little gap that you can see there's a person pooping in there, right? And you just kind of have to like stare ahead of yourself and do some visual imagery or mindfulness or diaphragmatic breathing and put yourself in a trance to remove yourself that you're in a public toilet.
Place. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of psychological things that you have to have. And if nothing happens, get up. Just try again later.
Good. How long? How long?
Well, you get the urge if you start moving and start drinking water, and maybe if there's a Starbucks outside, like Target, you go in there and go have yourself a warm drink, like a tea or something, and then a hot chocolate or something, and then see if you could stimulate your gut to go, or coffee. But anyway, just to get your gut to move. And maybe you don't get that chance at Target. You may get that chance at the next store at Bevmo, so then you go grab an alcohol off.
But don't stop. Like, so your point is like, don't wait till you get home and hold it.
No.
You just need to go. And when you say like you get up, like how long do you suggest a person sitting down? If nothing happens, then get up. Like how long is that?
So it could happen in the stall. You could actually be up and down, still doesn't work. You wipe and you come out and go wash your hands. And then you might actually...
Don't forget to wash your hands.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Wash your hands.
Yeah, right? And you actually, there's another way to stimulate the butt is to get some wet paper and you actually can compress the anus.
Oh,
and that can stimulate the anal reaction to release. So you could go back in the stall and kind of press up against there, and the nerve endings there may get stimulated to open. That's where the bidet water spraying at the booty hole can actually stimulate the nerve to do the release. And so sometimes a little counter pressure, and women who've had babies or chronic constipation run into rectocele, that too requires a little counter pressure, which is physically manipulating the muscle inside and pressing the vagina wall. And I had some women who did so much that their vagina wall was all callous. And I'm going, oh my God, please don't do that. You've got to take care of yourself. You're getting older. Your skin is more drier. You can't keep doing that. And so then the other possible is to bring some aids, like stimulation aids, like a baby little glycerin suppository. Could be the bullet size, or it could be the 10 cc glycerin purse size injectile liquid of glycerin to stimulate. And you just hover over the toilet. The packaging says, go on your side and lay down and inject. Well, we don't have time for that.
Right.
You just you hover over the toilet, you do your thing, and you kind of see if you could release quickly by initiating again the motions of the blowing and the tilting. And it might be enough to just loosen that little dangling turd at the opening. And then that feeling is gone. So you could poop again. And so now it's gone. And then you could go about your merry way. And it just may seem like sometimes it's just like a little piece of shit that you just go, what? This little freaking piece of pea-sized poop is driving me crazy? Yes, it could be. Right. And so then you say, I always say to myself, that's happened to me too. I say, Susan, you got to hydrate. Get a bottle of water and keep pushing that gut, because the water is a wonderful natural laxative. So we keep moving it, because poop has about 75% contained of water. And if you don't have enough water in your system, your poop's going to end up drier. And so that's where you don't want that. And then using too much laxatives, you're forging the process of the gut moving too fast. And then that too, you may be just pooping watery stools, or you're pooping just being stimulated poop when you don't have enough mass to poop.
And so you bring up a very good point, Susan, because, people that are trying to conceive and they're in their, after ovulation, they're not in a position to take it. So there are lots of women out there, or people out there, that take these laxatives long term, and then they don't have their natural bowel function. Like their peristalsis gets weaker because they've been counting on something else. So it's like, okay, well then how do you deal with that? So personally for me, like when I tell patients, doing that self massage in the direction of the movement of the stools, right, which is clockwise. I don't. Do you tell people about that?
Yes,
and then
yes,
the cecal colon with the descending part that goes to your anus, it's like on the lower left quadrant, right by your hip bone. So like really, and seriously, like it gets hard there, and that's your poop, right? So it's like you really want to massage that out. So I really love it that you bring that up about the laxatives, because we can't use it like when we're in these kinds of positions. But there's
magnesium is really safe, though. Magnesium and probiotics both been shown to improve. What's your experience using magnesium over laxatives?
Well, there's a dosage. The milk of magnesia is 1,200 milligrams. Taking a supplement of 400 3 times a day, if you really kind of need it, is okay, as long as your stool's not overwatering. And the other thing I was going I always bring up too is using, a couple fingers below the umbilicus and using the acupressure point and kind of pressing in and out. So that part, Mary, is like what I say, hey, I used to use electrical stimulation in my clinic, but with a pregnant woman, I don't go there. But after pregnancy, I'll use electrical stimulation for the anal muscle and even around the abdomen.
Right.
And I do teach the belly rub, the circular abdominal rub. And I remember doing that in the hospital with the post-op patients, and you could even feel the stool, form stool on the left side of the abdomen, that you kind of have to like massage it downwards, like you said, and just keep pushing it forward and saying to the patient, I know you had surgery, but you've got to get up, you've got to walk. And so these are some of the basics that, we forget when we don't have a problem. But when we have a problem, we're going, oh my God, what do I do now? And so Butt Talks is all about putting the tools in the toolbox and giving you more information how to manage your symptoms without going into a panic state. And so I see a lot of the laxative abuse patients, and they just panic and they aren't thinking about, hey, how about some more natural ways to help ourselves? I just got an Instagram message from a woman in Romania, 23 years old. She wrote to me 3 years ago, and now she's saying the laxatives don't work, and the surgeons are saying she has colonic inertia. And in Romania, I don't know how much the healthcare is, what kind of services are offered for constipation, because again, constipation is underrated throughout many parts of in America, in the US, and throughout the world. You constipated, that's not a big issue. But that is where, Butt Talks is there to say, hey, being constipated, what degree of constipation? And here's the NIDDK parameters of definition of constipation. And if you fall into that, you really need to seek professional help to get you going. So the lady in Romania, she's writing me a message on Instagram this long, and I go, okay, there's more advanced ways to detect that. So you need to see more of a specialist. It's a gastroenterologist who knows how to do a different study where you're going to have a colonoscopy. You have to get a X-ray of the abdomen and make sure how much stool is there. And then there's this long tube that they put in there, and the doctor's injecting drugs to see the timing of how fast the gut moves. That's a very severe case of constipation.
Sure. Thankfully, we don't see that kind of level of constipation, but, and frankly, I mean, that's why we're having this conversation. So you don't get to that place, right? Mm-hmm. So there's lots of natural tips that you can do, and you've pointed to a lot, Susan. So is there anything else?
What would your top 3 tips for nutrition be to prevent constipation?
Well, that's exactly having enough fruits and vegetables, whether it's cooked or raw. Sometimes I like the blend of it, and I like texture. Blend it, chew it. Those are the techniques, and cooking it and not cooking it. So you could get all kinds of, variety for that gut and all the different colors of the gut. And so that's kind of like your prebiotic. And then I like probiotic, like in forms of fermented foods, supplements of probiotic. Some people may need some digestive enzymes. They might find that they get a little gassy from lactose. They may get gassy from wheat. And so these things have to be, I give them a diary list. I said, come on, let's do your diet and let's look at your bowels. And you hand it to me back in a week when you come and see me. And we did an app, and I don't have it so much diet related, but there are apps that are diet related and poop related out there. So you can map yourself out. So mine is just take a picture of the poop in the toilet. That's the son's thing, because he likes all that computer and app stuff. So he came up with that idea, and that was, very brilliant. And so that would lead you to watch a video, how to, handle your constipation. You may need more fluid because you got a type 1 poop, which is little pebbly, small little guys.
Right.
Or watery stuff. You kind of need to back off a little bit. You need to get it right in the middle with a banana-shaped poop. So that kind of helps them learn to look at their poop, because their poop tells them a lot. And so when you get some immediate feedback like that, the appearance of it, the difficulty of getting out, or the difficulty of retaining it, is all blended in the self-care. And so that's some of all the steps. So fiber, that's my part. And the probiotic, the hydration, and now the stress management. So now when it comes to pregnancy, you're so tired from being pregnant. You may have fatigue for the first 3 months. And then as the baby's growing, I remember that, I'm like 40 pounds overweight. I could barely move. And I'm going, I can't walk up this slope at the mall. I can get to my car. And you can't even walk.
Never mind pooping. Yeah.
Yeah. And your pants are sliding off, And you're going, God damn it, And so then pooping becomes an issue. You sit down, you feel already pressure just to pee all the time from the weight of the baby in there. And then you gotta pee and you can't hardly move. But you gotta do the best you can. The bidet is wonderful for that, because that can help. You can spray warm, if you have one that sprays warm water, use it to just kind of relax and stimulate the anal opening and relax the muscles. If you have one that has the warm seat, it can relax your leg muscles to keep you going. God knows if you can even put your feet up on a squatty bench, because that's kind of too hard, because you got to kind of pick up your knees. But you use those tools.
I love that. I'm going to cut in, because I loved it that you mentioned warm, right? Because there's nothing worse than a cold toilet seat, because that contracts your muscles. We need everything opened up and ready to go. So thank you for bringing that up. That's really
it's time to get a bidet.
And I never
warm bidet, a warm toilet seat. Yeah.
I've never used a bidet, and I always thought it was just for after the fact, for cleaning. So I didn't think of it for helping to go
promote, to relax.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is such a smart.
Yeah, and you guys live in a very cold area, and I remember having a patient from the Mayo Clinic, and I had the patient go through biofeedback, because I said, "Lady, I can't help you anymore. You need to go to the Mayo Clinic and see what they could tell you." And one of the tips they gave her was put a blanket over the legs, and I said, "Yeah. Great. She doesn't have a bidet. Put a blanket over your legs. I mean, you have half of your body exposed, and you're trying to poop, and you're cold, because a lot of the separate bathroom, the half bath, doesn't always have a heater in there. So you're freezing in there, and you're trying to poop, right?
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I've learned so much. I don't know about you, Tanya, but I've learned so much. And obviously, everyone needs to pick up this book, Power of Pooping. We don't get any money for it. Don't worry. We're just saying, like, what you're saying is gold. And it's so important because don't we all poop? I mean, that's the real fact. We all poop and we need to
hopefully daily.
Hopefully daily.
Yeah.
Yes. Hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So thank you for being here. Any last words that you want to like share, like any words of wisdom before we drop off? Because we need to get on with our day. So we thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no, I agree with more things to, I did it on my YouTube channel, ways to kind of help relax yourself. So I did a little YouTube video on music. So using music, pipe it in the bathroom or listen on your phone, but some nice relaxing music. And I did a little TikTok on that. And then I had the buddy guy breathing. And so that nice, slow diaphragmatic breathing is helpful. And so that, and then another one is visual imagery. You could put a poster of a beautiful creek in the forest and that greenery and that water. And you kind of say, let yourself go. Let yourself go. And you got to hypnotize yourself to let yourself go. And so those things are some of the tips. And I always say, there's a door. You close the door and you leave your problems outside the door.
Love it.
And you concentrate on what you're doing here.
Yeah. I love that. And so I'm just going to jump in here and say, I know we don't really love electronics devices, but maybe you can watch the butttalkstv TikToks while you're trying to poop. Just don't drop your phone in the toilet.
They actually do. And I have a lot of humor on it. And
yes, it's so funny. You're awesome. You're so funny and fun. I love it. Can I say one more? I know, Mary, we have to go, but the most afraid I've ever been of pooping, and nobody talks about this stage, is that first week postpartum. And I remember one of the most helpful tools, which I heard you mention, was that counter pressure. Do you want to speak to that really quickly before you let us go? Like the postpartum week after having delivered a baby.
Yeah. The counter pressure could be done with your sphincter muscle just pulling inward, or you could actually press against the perineum, which is the tissue between the vagina and the anus, and just gently push up against there. And sometimes that's enough to pop that stool, because when you look on an x-ray, that rectus seal is kind of bulging downwards below the sphincter. So you got to press it up to kind of get it over the hump.
Right, literally. So interesting. So, and how much pressure are we talking? If we're going to say it in pounds of pressure, I don't know.
It's about a pressure of a 2 or 3 in intensity. You don't want to go too crazy.
And are we using one finger?
We could use one finger, or we could use 3 fingers to kind of press up against the band of the muscles to just push up and just kind of tease it out, and then relax. And try to maybe lean back. I find a lot of times the rectus seals, you work a little bit better leaning back, so you tilt the rectum backwards. So that kind of helps it. Because even myself, I have a rectus seal. I talk about the poop with the hook. I have a rectus seal, but I mentioned Kegels will not take that rectus seal away. Right. Kegels will just tighten your muscles, but you don't want to over Kegel, because then you get your sphincter too tight, because Kegeling involves your sphincter. And so you could do some Kegels to kind of do gentle ones on the toilet to kind of do this to the poop, and then relax, because you can't overdo it. I say about 3 times. But tilting I find helpful for prolapse and rectus seal. You just start and you just like that.
I'm going to make it real quick, because for those of you that are listening to the podcast, you got to go back and actually watch the YouTube video, because Susan's definitely doing a show and tell, leaning back physically. Okay, so Tammy, you were going to say something.
I was just going to say that postpartum, like, so that counter pressure you're describing, although it's obviously helpful for erectocele, also very helpful for the postpartum period. Those first 2 weeks when you delivered a baby vaginally. I don't know if you, no, you didn't experience that, Mary, probably because you were in labor, even though you ended up with a C-section, right? But that first week, it's scary. I don't know why, it just felt like I was losing my insides, even though I wasn't. Oh. So that counter pressure, as you're describing, was so helpful. Like, it's my whole hand for my first poop, because I was afraid to poop. And obviously the warm water.
I think that's a great topic, especially if like women have tears, right? I didn't have I
had a tear. Yeah.
See, that makes it even more scary, right? So yes. I think this is really, really great advice. And so for those of you who are like thinking about getting pregnant or are pregnant, like this is all very practical shit that will be so helpful. And it's nothing to be fearful of, because this is solid advice. Right. So it's going to help the fears, actually. Right. So this is awesome. Thank you so much, Susan. We do need to drop off now. And, you know, I think we could have you back because you're a delight to have. I'm so super honored. Like when I contacted you, I was surprised that you would talk to me. And I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, you're my sister because your name is Susan Wong. But guys, we're not related in any way, just so you guys know.
Love it. We love your energy. We love everything you stand for. And thank you for educating. You're amazing. Keep going. It's awesome. And I'm going to keep watching you because you're just too fun.